Our next speaker, Daniel Webster, is a first-generation student with 2 degrees from St. Norbert College, his undergraduate and his MBA. But as he'll reveal in his talk, he didn't begin his educational journey here. But by activating his superpower, which he calls resilience, Daniel continues to beat the odds of this complex world. Daniel is currently an HR business partner in the construction industry, working on some of the state's biggest infrastructure projects, as well as serves as a dad, a loving leader, and a role model to many. Welcome to the SNCtalks stage, Daniel Webster.
Ten years ago, I was standing at the bus stop without a job, any work history, or even a plan. The old adage is, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. For those of us who have lived isolated away from mainstream society for many years, planning can be a very abstract concept. According to the Department of Health and Human Services, 600,000 people are released from jail and prison each year. Many of them do not have any post-secondary education, work history, or resources to utilize during their transition. For those 600,000 individuals, planning is an afterthought to simply surviving. In 2002, at the age of 20, I was sentenced to 26 years in prison. I had been sentenced to more time than I had been alive. I had no idea how I was going to survive the next several years of my young adult life. I grew up on the Red Lake Indian Reservation in northern Minnesota in an environment that conditioned me to survive some of the harshest conditions in this country. Little did I know, all of my life, I have been developing a thing called resilience. At just 2 years old, I witnessed my father's murder, and as a result, I grew up in a single-parent home where my mother suffered from alcoholism. My younger brother and I grew up in poverty, attended 5 different grade schools, and learned how to survive with little support. Resilience is defined as toughness, a characteristic that is primarily built through adversity. I believe that resilience is a universal superpower that each and every one of us has the ability to activate. In 2011, after nearly 10 years of incarceration, I walked out of the United States Penitentiary in Terre Haute, Indiana. After being transported back to Wisconsin and settling into the federal halfway house, I was allowed back into society and found myself standing at that bus stop. During those 10 years, I spent nearly 3 years in solitary confinement, or what is commonly referred to as the hole. While there, I'd often think about my life and how I landed myself in prison. During one of my longer stints in the hole, I was sitting at the edge of a concrete slab that I had slept on, eating lunch off the top of a trash can that I had flipped over to use as a table. In this moment, I started to question the value of my own existence, my own humanity. This was a pivotal moment for me, and although I had no idea what my future would look like, I knew that I was better than sitting in an 8x4 cell wasting away. Several years later, while still in prison, my only sibling, my younger brother, walked through the gate, now also incarcerated. Seeing him burned a hole in my soul. I was supposed to have been better, a better role model, and a better brother. Ironically, we now walk the same yard reminiscing about childhood memories. He was released well before I was, and seeing him leave was just as hard as it was to see him come. 95% of people who become incarcerated will be released back into society with no real chance of becoming a positive contributing member. The odds are stacked against us, and it can feel insurmountable in every way. To do anything different than what you have known throughout your entire life feels nearly impossible. Yet this is when we must activate our resilience. No matter your background or where you come from, resilience is a universal superpower. Maybe you have struggled to pay for college, or maybe you struggle with depression, or maybe you have done something that you're ashamed of and your daily regret is like a huge weight to carry. I am here to remind you of this truth. We never know what we are capable of overcoming, but it is much more than what we think. We human beings are pretty incredible. We are resilient, and resilience is a choice. My first act of resilience was getting on that bus. I found a job at a paper converting company with difficult working conditions. I walked for an hour each day to get to the closest bus line, then rode the bus for an additional hour just to get to work. I worked for 12 hours a day at $8 an hour and just $4 when you factored in taxes and the expenses the Bureau of Prisons took from me to assist during my transition. In 2012, I applied at Northeast Wisconsin Technical College and was admitted into their business management program. I remember one of the first classes that I had took was a Microsoft Word class where I hadn't even known what a USB was. I went on to earn my associate's degree, and in the spring of 2014 graduated. Prior to graduation, I was inducted as a member of Phi Theta Kappa for maintaining an exemplary grade point average. It was during this ceremony and at the age of 32 where I first learned how to tie a tie. My grandfather taught me in a restroom nearby. I maintained an optimistic outlook on my future, hopeful that advanced education would open up new doors, but I had quickly learned that most employers were reluctant to hire a felon. I had to do some more soul searching. I had to activate and choose resilience to stop what felt like a huge boulder rolling down the hillside ready to crush me. I decided a 4-year degree needed to be next, and I learned that the UW system would only accept 15 of the 66 credits that I had earned. Wow, this hurt, and I questioned whether or not I had it in me to start over, but I did. It felt like carrying a boulder uphill, but I kept on moving and I kept on pushing. In my search for a program, I decided to stop at St. Norbert College. And in the fall of 2015, I started here as a non-traditional student, a full-time father who also had a full-time job. This by far was one of the most challenging times in my life. But in the fall of 2017, I walked across the stage with my bachelor's degree in business administration. Shortly thereafter, I secured a position as an HR business partner for one of the premier contractors in the state. I was given a chance. And just last year, I walked across the St. Norbert College stage one more time, this time with my MBA. I was given a chance. There were many times throughout my journey where it would have been easy to give up or to simply submit to living the life I had once led. Every single day, I pushed a psychological boulder uphill while trying to forgive myself. The stigma of being a felon is heavy. That stigma is a boulder that I'm constantly carrying, and one that I make an active choice to cope with every day. That's resilience. I was given a second chance and I chose to make the most of it. That's resilience. But there were many people along my way who chose to give me a second chance. So now I need to ask you, where are the spaces in your life or your work where you can give someone a second chance? Where can you help to ease someone's load, giving them a hand with their boulder on their hill? When we choose to support each other, we are creating a shared resilience. When we make the choice to see the full potential in others, it can and will have a profound human impact little by little. Thank you.